Hello.
Hi, everyone.
Hello, everybody. We are Aub and Courtney from Dandelion Branding, and welcome to EnvironMental Podcast.
Yeah, this is our podcast where we dive into different aspects of sustainability and then we have a conversation about it from a social and environmental justice lens.
We sure do.
Yeah.
Welcome. If that's your cup of tea, then please subscribe. We would love to have you.
That button is, I think, over here. Over here.
Who knows? Who
It's down
knows?
there.
It's below
Click
us.
on it. It's below us. Click on it.
Yes. And we are starting a new topic this week.
We are.
Topic of water.
Yeah, specifically freshwater.
Fresh water. What's going on with water? We'll see. Yeah.
I feel similarly at the beginning of every topic that we cover because it's like, fuck, what am I gonna learn? Like, what's my bummer
Yeah.
this time?
Yeah. It's right. This is another one of those massive topics like food that is a basic human requirement, yet it is riddled with all sorts of issues.
Yeah,
Not
but
only
not a basic human right.
yeah. Um yeah, and it's something that is again a resource that is limited
Mm-hmm.
and
I think this might be the
scary.
biggest resource limitation problem.
More so than fossil fuels.
I mean, if fossil fuels run out, if and when, let's say, when fossil fuels run out, we can mostly still survive. Like, probably a lot of people will die because they can't stay warm in the winter or or cool enough in the summer. Um, but if and when we run out of water, everyone dies.
Yeah.
There's a big difference. And I think like we can prepare for fossil fuels being gone, right? We can prepare ourselves, we can like prepare mentally, we can plan for that, we can plant a garden, we can grow whatever. That's something like as a species we can pretty much plan for. Water though, I don't know. I don't know if we can like solve that.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a good point that like we can take from the ways of old prior to
Right.
fossil fuels in order to live sustainably in a post fossil fuel world.
Right.
But yeah, post freshwater world looks a whole lot different.
That's the apocalypse.
Yeah. And
That's
it's
that's that's what Mad Max is about, y'all. Like the end of water and fossil fuels,
mhm.
actually.
How did they power all their cars?
Oh yeah, still with gas, but they just kill each other over it.
Oh, right on. Okay. Hmm.
Yeah.
Interesting. Well,
Yeah.
yeah, it's it's a big one. And yeah, I mean, going into this topic, neither of us have really like studied water previously. Our knowledge of the actual topic is relatively limited. So we're learning along with you guys. And it'll
Yeah.
be a topic. Yeah. I mean, there's just a little bit of digging to kind of find like a baseline for what the situation is
Yeah.
right now with freshwater. And that's what we'll go
Yeah.
over. Yeah.
Exactly. I think like we're kind of starting with like, okay, where actually are we with water? What uses this resource? And then we can kind of shape it from there because we could go in any direction. We could Literally, I think this probably ties into, I mean, not probably, it ties into every part of our planet, every part of our survival, which means that it's connected with all of the other sustainability aspects and all of the social justice, all of the environmental justice aspects that we often talk about.
Mm.
Yeah. And for me, like, I'm from Flint, Michigan, so I I feel tied to this because in a social justice way, more so than some of the other topics that we cover, just because like, yeah, this is my like community that is being so heavily impacted by just like corruption and systemic racism.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, this one hits particularly close to home for you. And
Mm-hmm.
we'll definitely kind of at some point dive into the Flint water crisis.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe when we split up.
Yeah.
'Cause we split up
Yeah.
and like share information. So yeah, that would be cool.
Yeah, because I would love to know more about that. I mean, in terms of like, what has been done and what needs to continue to happen, because I know that even though it's been in the news for like over 10 years, it is not resolved, and
No,
quite
it's not.
little has been done in general,
Yeah.
actually.
Yeah. Comparatively, that's basically all I know though,
Yeah,
is that
that's
like Flint folks knew about it way before it hit national news.
surely.
And the only reason why anything happened was because it hit national news. And Governor Schneider is a piece of shit. And I will just say it on camera. Like, and that he made choices that changed the way the water was, and it fucked up with the lead pipes, and people were getting lead in their water. Yeah, and then question mark, like what's actually happening? There was funding put into it. They are trying to make a change. It is a huge systematic change, but it shouldn't take 10 years to make. If this was a white community or if this was an affluent community, this wouldn't be a decade-long conversation.
Right.
It just wouldn't. So that's what I know about it, but that's it. Like, I think that there's a lot more of nuance happening there that we can totally learn more about.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm very interested in hearing what's going on there from folks who are actively working within that community for sure.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But yeah, gosh, I mean, we hear about like, a water crisis or sort of an impending water crisis, but like, what does that actually mean? Like what, like, and I think,
Yeah, exactly. We've been hearing about it for a long time. What does it mean?
mhm,
And I think like I found a quote from Professor Benjamin Sovacool.
sweet
Sovacool?
name, sweet name.
Sweet name. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, from Denmark. Um, he said, there will be no water by 2040 if we keep doing what we're doing today. That like that comes from theworldcounts.com, and they talk about fresh water as one of their issues and challenges, and that quote like said it for me. It was like, oh, it's like that. Okay, it's like that. I didn't know. Why isn't this like in the new in the like the big deal in the news?
Right. Why isn't it? Yeah, because it's like,
I don't know.
this is such a tangible thing. Like, okay, regardless of like what your views on climate change are and the rising temperatures of the earth, this, yeah, like they know how much water there is, fresh water there is in left, like
Right.
left. I mean, I guess, and they can probably also account for how much will be like created by, I don't know, rain, or how much we can
Yeah, but I think like
reuse.
when I was reading about it, what I thought was really interesting is like water is it's cyclic. No matter how we use it, it's cyclic. And that amount of water doesn't change that much. Like the amount of water, fresh water available on our planet doesn't change that much. Actually, what changes and what makes it scarce is our usage of it. And I might have that wrong. I want to dig deeper into it, but that's what I understood when I was reading about like how much water is left. It's like actually there's always been kind of the same amount.
Interesting. That makes sense, actually, because it's like, because it
Yeah,
can be captured by the atmosphere and then condensed and then it
exactly.
rains, so it goes somewhere else. But if it's being used in a way that where it's now removed from that cycle, where it can then evaporate and get,
Hmm.
what is the call? What is that cycle called? Something about, I don't know. I learned about it in school. I remember that.
Precipitation
Oh,
cycle. I don't know.
yeah, sure.
That's
Yeah.
that's it. I'm sure that we will
We'll
learn
learn
about
it.
that.
We'll learn
We'll
it. But
yeah.
yeah, that makes sense though, that like anything that, wouldn't be available to then be evaporated into the atmosphere, it's never going to find its way back into that cycle, right?
I don't know. I don't know. That's the part I don't understand. Is it being removed from that I want to know a little bit more about? Is it being removed from the cycle? Or are we just using so much that like the cycle never has a chance to like catch back up?
Quite
You
likely
know,
that
like
one. Yeah.
right, because it seems to me like, like energy it can't be created or destroyed. Like it everything is in a cycle. So the water cycle is the water cycle is the water cycle. But when we're pulling it from really deep in the planet and then not and then using it at such a rate where it can't replenish itself,
Hmm.
I think that's the issue is the water use, not that we don't have any.
Right. Yeah.
That's how I understand the
Okay.
issue. But yeah, I want to know more about that.
Yeah. And I mean, the biggest users of fresh water are the like three major industries:
Yep.
energy, which is a trip. Is that's
Like
wild.
I think like fracking,
Okay.
like
Yeah.
pulling out fossil fuels, like hella water usage.
And then, yeah. So, and of course, then food and agriculture, like we covered over the
Yep.
last couple
Yep.
months.
That's
Fun,
how we got here.
good times.
Yeah.
And I mean, the third is the fashion industry, making clothes. That blows my
Yeah.
mind.
It feels like I know that and I don't believe it. But I also definitely believe it.
I believe it. Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's a fact. Right.
Right? It's a fact. That's not
That's
really something we can
from, yeah, that's
argue.
from a government government
That's
website.
that's from government.
But yeah, I mean, that's just wild that that much fresh water is being used in the creation of textiles. And I mean, so much of that conversation then goes into like, fast fashion, and just that it's so insanely unnecessary for
Right.
the fashion industry to be operating the way that it is. But it,
Yeah, we're gonna have to cover it at some point.
mhm,
Maybe next time because it's the
yeah,
only one we haven't covered.
yeah,
Um, I just feel like it's gonna make me really mad because like energy, water, food, sourcing, like pretty much the things we've covered so far feel like something that's like kind of necessary that like we've just kind of went way too far with. But
Mhm.
fashion was never fucking necessary. So that just feels, and it's so wasteful and it's causing such a massive problem that it feels to me like that's
Right.
just one that, like, can you not?
It's kind of insane, right? Like, of course, yeah, protecting our bodies from the elements is a necessary thing. Yes, but that's not at all what we're talking about when we talk about the, like, yeah,
The
how
fashion
unnecessary
industry.
it is to be creating as much clothing as we are,
Yeah,
and just to be,
not at all.
oh my gosh, yeah. And yeah, it's sad. Like, it's really sad that, like, folks feel so, like their entire personality comes from, like, the clothes that they're wearing, and, like, it's such a
Yeah.
weird, strange tie to, like, ego and your
Yeah.
feeling of,
And
like,
status.
self-worth, and
Yeah. Yeah, it's
like,
such a like an external validation
yeah.
thing, which points to like the need for the paradigm shift that we operate in. Yeah.
Yeah, it really seems like it's fueled by, like, insecurity, or making people feel insecure so that they consume more, so that they can, like, have the coolest, latest, coolest thing. um
Mm-hmm.
which just kind of perpetuates this weird feeling of, like, never good enough, never have enough, gotta get more, gotta be cool, what's the next cool thing?
Right.
Which, yeah, I mean, yeah.
I mean, that works great for people that operate in the top like 15%, 20% of our world,
Oh
that
yeah, oh
like
my gosh, very
they
lucrative business right there, fast
super
fashion.
great for them, make
Yeah.
everybody else feel like shit about themselves.
It's a
And
business strategy that is effective.
it is
Is it
yeah.
ethical? You tell me. You
No,
tell
yeah.
me. Yeah. I mean,
Pop quiz.
I felt it before. It's like, I've been there. I've been there, and it's,
Yeah.
yeah, it's hard not to. It's hard not to be there and feel that, and to feel like
Yeah.
you need to have the newest, coolest thing. And
Yeah, dude. Being a teenage girl,
yeah,
hi. That's
yeah,
where you live.
yeah.
It's like, and that's where those habits come from. It's like your young person self trying to like feel good and like, look your best and like be cool, you
Yeah.
know? And we create these habits and then all of a sudden there's a trillion-dollar fashion industry that's medium wrecking the planet.
Out of control. Right. And yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm really, really interested in diving more deeply into that, because then there's, like, also, yeah, tons of other aspects of the fashion industry for sure. But that's just wild that they're using so much fresh
I
water.
know. And
Uh,
it's so like all three of these, energy, food, and ag, and the fashion industry, they pollute they pollute fresh water at such alarming rates. Like,
right.
you know,
Yeah, that's the other side of it, right? Yeah, they're taking
right.
all of the fresh water, but then, yeah, throwing all this
They're
wastewater, the polluted
right. And
dyes and chemicals,
right. Yeah, chemicals, dyes, like, and
plastic. Yeah.
the energy factor, like we talked about this when we talked about fossil fuels and fracking, but like they used to just take that water and just put it back in the stream, freshwater stream. And people were like, I can light the fucking water on fire.
Mm-hmm.
That seems safe, but it wasn't the fracking industry. Okay. Like, that's how we treat our fresh water. Like, none of those are like hydration.
Right. Or yeah, and, like, people are, like, the actual usage of, like, what is actually the necessary for us to sustain ourselves.
Right.
That's not
Like,
on the list.
no. And food and ag, a lot of water goes into like creating crops that we feed to animals that also take shitloads of water, or trying to grow crops like cocoa in Africa, which like that's not its native place. It takes a shitload more water. Like deforestation takes a shitload more water than it needs to. Like these massive water uses are often just not necessary. Like, yeah, sure, it takes a lot to grow a tomato, but it takes a lot to grow a cow. It takes a lot to like, it takes a lot of fossil fuel to deforest a place, to turn it into an agricultural spot that can grow meat or non-native plants that can't sustain themselves off of the water supply that comes from the sky. Like all of this stuff is connected.
Mhm.
And all of it uses a shitload of water, and we're basically just killing ourselves. That's great.
Yeah, it's like once again humans trying to like outsmart and trying to do things better than how nature can do them, and it's just failing massively.
Yeah, we're never going to be able to do that.
Yeah.
Evolution exists for a fucking reason.
Yeah, and I mean that was a particularly fascinating fact, was like just how much water it takes to for a cow to live and then be slaughtered and turned into meat. And let's see, it was yeah, an average hamburger takes 2,400 liters or 630 gallons of water to produce.
Yep.
And I think that might even be like a conservative number, because like, does that take into consideration the water that the cow was drinking before? Or is that just in the like processing or in the,
Right.
I actually don't, I'm not entirely
I
sure. I
don't
think it might be
know.
total, but
That's just one hamburger,
that's a
not like
oh, that's right.
it's
That's true. A
a
cow, yeah,
hamburger.
one
Like
hamburger.
cows make a shitload. One cow makes a shitload of hamburgers.
That is true. That's true. That is true. Yeah, that's not the cow. Holy moly. Wow. Yeah. One hamburger. How many hamburgers have you had in your life?
A
Like
lot. My aunt owned a cow farm. Like,
so many.
yeah, you can buy a quarter cow and it can feed a family of four. A family with three meat eaters for a year. You need to buy basically a quarter cow a year for like very regular meat consumption. So
Interesting.
interesting cow facts.
Hmm.
They're really big. There's a lot of meat on a cow, and one hamburger, like how much water does it take to raise a cow? I don't know.
Right.
I
I mean
asked a
that
question
that's
I
at
don't know the
least,
answer to.
it's got to be at least 20 times that,
Oh my God, way more. I
if
would
not
I would venture to say it could be like 100 times that.
really. Whoa.
Yeah, I mean, a hamburger is like this much meat. And how many of these fit in a cow?
So many. I don't know. They're very big.
Cows are really big.
They are very
I'm
big.
gonna I'm
Huh.
gonna Google how many hamburgers can one cow make.
Or rather, maybe just how much water does one need? But oh yeah, it's pretty freaky stuff, just because yeah, I mean
1,600
1,600 hamburgers.
in a cow.
Oh my lord.
That's just the top result in Google. So
Wow.
yeah.
Okay,
I
then.
wouldn't recommend Googling that question if you're squeamish, by the way. Maybe just put a little disclaimer here.
Mm,
You don't want to know the other things that come up when you Google that. So I'll just tell you the answer. It's 1,600.
yikes. Yeah, factory farming is disgusting in general.
Which means that it takes roughly 10 million. Wait, what is this number? I'm not really good with numbers. 1,080,000 8,000 gallons of water for a cow.
What? Wait, that's because it's 630 gallons.
Times
Mhm.
1,600 hamburgers.
That's a million. That is a million gallons.
Yeah,
1 million gallons
per cow.
per cow. And gosh, if you're living in California, you've seen how many cows are in those giant cow
Yeah,
farms.
there's a lot of fucking cows hanging around the world. So
Yes, there
that
are.
seems like an industry we could rein in a bit.
Yeah, I mean,
But cows are tasty. I can hear all the people. Hamburgers are good. It's like so is water. So is like not
so is
killing our planet and
having
staying
water.
hydrated.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. And if the alternative is just, yeah, a maybe a mixture. I mean, I think that there is a big opportunity for mixed what was that? What were we were talking where it was like a mixture of meat and plant-based for burgers.
Oh yeah, we were talking to Anne about that.
And yeah, yeah. And that is something that I haven't really seen that. I've seen, in the
No.
grocery stores, there's meat section, and next to that, there are plant-based meat alternatives, but I've never seen a mixture. And I think that like has a pretty big opportunity to really like position itself as like a nice way for people to kind of transition away from eating so much meat. I mean, it's going to be a challenging thing, of course. Every time we tell folks that they need to perhaps change something about their behavior or lifestyle,
Yeah, that's a
folks don't
rough
take
one.
kindly to that. Yeah.
Nope.
So yeah, there's a
Especially
lot.
not like messing with somebody's food.
Hmm.
People aren't about it.
People are
I can
not.
relate to that. I can relate to that. I'm a meat eater when I am, and we don't buy very much meat in the house, but I'll eat it if I go out. Because and this is the other thing, at some point, I have the feeling that if it doesn't get eaten, it's going to go to waste, especially in the restaurant industry and especially like in the bin, in the like almost expired bin at the grocery store. It's the only
Mm,
time we buy meat
okay.
because I there has to be a balance there, right? Like we can't just stop eating it altogether like immediately
Right.
because then there's going to be a shitload of meat that just goes to waste. And is that better?
Right. Right. Yeah. Yeah. Where, right. Where does it need to stop
There,
in order
yeah,
for
it has
like,
to be a demand taper for there to
hmm
be a supply taper.
hmm and the demand for alternatives to meat has increased. There are definitely, there has been a larger shift towards veganism and vegetarianism over the past 10, 15 years for sure. And certainly within the last five, there's been really significant increase. Um, right. But that doesn't necessarily mean that there's less interest in meat options, I suppose. Yeah. Just because
Right.
there's
And like healthy, organic, well treated meat options.
mhm.
Because I feel like you can have a sustainable actual meat product.
Mhm.
I'm like, I think I'm sure that it's possible, but we are unable to have a sustainably farmed meat product and continue eating meat at the level that we do right now.
Yeah,
Like,
the scale is unsustainable. It's not
yeah,
that eating meat is unsustainable. I mean, yeah, if we look at indigenous communities, if we look at any population of people prior to us right now, we were able to eat meat on a
right,
relatively sustainable way,
right.
because their diet wasn't entirely meat, and
No.
like, and it is, especially in the States, like
And yeah, also here, the Netherlands
Europe,
is a
yeah,
huge
Western.
meat eating. Yeah, it's huge with meat eating
Hmm.
culture. And that's a really big shift to ask to change.
Mhm.
But yeah, to your point, like even reading, like I read a lot and like a lot of the books I read are based in the past. And so a character will have a meal and they'll talk about like what their meal is comprised of. And oftentimes there's meat in the meal, but it's like a few tidbits
Exactly.
of beef. Or like, you know, bone broth is like they're using all the parts of the animal even in that.
Mhm.
Even in the past, books about the past, even fiction books, they like really do research into like how these people had food and how they did it sustainably. And I think that that has value.
Absolutely. 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 Yeah. Yeah. There are definitely ways to, yeah, utilize all aspects of animals in order to really, utilize and get all of that nutrient value that's there, as it is there.
Mhm.
And there are absolutely people who cannot sustain a vegan diet for their own health reasons. So we're never going to take the position of like, the world needs to go vegan, but
Yeah. You
we
need to,
need to have a better understanding of where our food and resources are coming from and what is a very realistic, like, potential reality down the line if we continue at this
right.
way.
Right. Yeah. It's kind of scary.
Mm,
2040 is not that far away.
that is not that far away. Yeah. And there are some areas right now that are even like experiencing this water crisis like now, or like,
Right. That's something that is so interesting to me too, because it isn't like 2040, Jan 1, 2040 happens and all of a sudden the water's gone. No, it's
no.
going to happen slowly over time and then it's going to speed up, just like climate change, just like we see
Mhm.
global warming happening. People are going to start, it's going to start trickling in as a problem right now. And then in 10 years, it's going to be like, fuck, half the world doesn't have water,
Mhm.
you know?
Yeah. And at what point are people in mass going to understand that it is a problem that needs to be addressed?
Yeah,
Like, at what point will that be? That's what I'm
right.
so interested in seeing. It's because there's so many people that can just deny it, things being a problem. Um,
Or deny that, like, we did this.
mhm.
Like, we did this.
Right.
There's
This isn't the
no
natural
question.
cycle of the earth. No.
No, there's no question about it. We did
Mm-mm.
this. Like, and you like freshwater isn't super decreasing. Our usage is increasing, and that is the important thing that to remember because it's not it's not them, it's us, basically. Like, it's not. Uh, yeah. Um. Yeah. Just it's important to remember that it's not them, it's us. Like we did this.
People did this. It doesn't matter who's to blame. Like, it doesn't matter. But
But it kind of does in this case because there isn't less water, there's more usage. So, like, the only real solution is to decrease usage. And
right.
in that case, it does matter who did it because like we have to stop it because otherwise it just
Right.
keeps happening.
No, okay, yes, yes, you're right. Yes, it doesn't. No, I meant like it doesn't matter. Like, yeah, the history of like what has happened, but we're at this point
Oh, right.
now where we're at a decision making necessary point where, yeah, I mean,
Hmm.
there do have to be limits, and that was something that was in the news fairly recently. Was that Hawaii is having a massive water shortage, and the locals have to limit their water usage pretty severely, or else they get fined like up to $500 or something, which, if you know anything about Hawaii, I mean, the local community there is already really struggling. I mean, it's a place where
Yeah.
homelessness is such an issue. It's a place where, yeah, just like income inequality is really pretty massive.
Mm-hmm.
And there's still so many tourists going there, and there is no limit on like hotel usages, no limit on anything that would actually affect like the tourists economy. And I think that that's just so disgusting. It's like if like
Yeah.
Hawaii as a state needs to like make mandates about their water usage, and it cannot just affect locals. Like if you are traveling to a place, you should learn that that area has problems. If there are
Yeah.
problems, and like, yeah, be conscious of that. Like respect the space that you're going to, this pristine, beautiful vacation space might not always be there. Like you have to be
Right.
conscious of what you're doing. Like,
Right. I was just reading that about Tulum too, actually.
oh,
Um,
not
Tulum
surprised.
is, I'm not either, because it is like just a massive party spot now, but it's a beautiful place and it's pristine and there's like rivers and fresh water. But I was just reading like, or I was reading or watching something. Um, I talked about how there are just like straight up traces of drugs now in the water supply in Tulum. Like there's like you can test it and like it is positive for cocaine just like in the water supply because people just go there, they don't respect the space and they just like dump drugs and like they're pissing or it's going through their bodies and it's not being, I don't know, like it's just a
Interesting.
treated like such a huge like party spot. And the way that they're treating the resorts and it's the same as in Hawaii, is like there's no limits, do whatever you want. But then um those resorts are messing with like um the ecosystem in such a way that like now they have algae blooms and things are dying, and yeah, there's drugs in the water, and all of these problems are like coming out because tourists don't respect the place they're going to.
Mm-hmm.
It's a big problem.
Yeah, right. It's a really strange thing that like all of a sudden, because you're like escaping to this vacation, you think that there are no consequences for your actions. It's like this weird, I don't understand where that really comes from, but it's very, very common. I think it's just rooted in,
It's
I
like
don't know.
on vacation, don't care.
Yeah, yeah. And it also has like definitely has connections to like weird white supremacy, economic
Yeah.
divides, and yeah, feeling like we can just go to these areas that are where folks are that live there are in poverty, but you can live lavishly.
Mm-hmm.
It feels very colonial. It's
Yeah.
gross.
Yes, it's gross. I
Yeah.
had that experience in Curacao also.
Where's that?
I it's a Caribbean island, and it's like I went on this cruise one time, which I fucking do not recommend. It's horrible.
Yeah, talk about a lot of
Um,
waste. Jesus. Cruises.
yeah, super waste. Also like not a big fan of water, open water on a big ass boat. And yeah, the culture was like not for me. It was a like a partner's parents like a thing they wanted to do, and I was just like, I'll go. Okay, never again. But we stopped at the ABC Islands, which is Aruba, the Bahamas, and Curacao,
Oh,
and
okay.
we only got off at Curacao because of the way that the like ocean was. But Curacao, it was like that. Like there was a place where the tourists go and they can like buy cool stuff and like go to the flea market and see the pretty houses. But I'm me, so I left the area, that this little area, and I like crossed this bridge, And just on like the other side of the bridge, there was like shanty spaces, and like it was really clearly there was a clear divide. It was like a road. I basically just like crossed a road, and all of a sudden I'm in a totally different country.
Mm-hmm.
It was
Yeah.
really, that was the first, I was in my really early 20s, and it was like the first time I'd ever experienced something like that, like in a way as a tourist, and I was just like, this is
Mm-mm.
super not okay. I actually still have some. Everybody's like buying these pretty things, and I'm just like, I'm gonna just come over here and get some coral. Like I'm gonna get a seashell,
Mm-mm.
off of that. I like purposely like went to like that other side of the space and like found like a shell so that I could honor that space
Mm.
and honor like that energy rather than this like really uncomfortable
Like
like
manufactured fake kind of Disney,
yeah,
like, yeah, it is like
yeah,
a,
exactly.
it's just, it's a facade. It's like a weird,
Yeah.
it's like you're putting up a, I don't even know an analogy for that, but it happens all over the place in a lot of
Yeah.
these touristy areas, particularly, yeah, in the Caribbean, and I mean, I think absolutely throughout like Southeast Asia, really anywhere that white people go on vacations, to be completely
Yeah.
honest. It's like
Well,
there's
we just
like
go
a,
there. White people just go there, or we, I guess, and treat it like the same way we treat our homes, right?
it's
You
fair,
go,
or
if you go
worse.
anywhere. Yeah. Oh, yeah, definitely worse. That's a good point. Worse. Like
There's no
you go
consequences.
anywhere around, yeah, you see trash on the road, and you see like, people just like use water like crazy. They just act like they own everything.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's some bullshit.
Yeah. It
I think
is a sad
I
reality.
think spending some time on the like tourist tourism industry would be also really interesting.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because that is, all of these are so connected to money and power, and just, it's just such an, yeah,
Yeah.
it's such an interesting thing. It's an interesting thread in
Yeah.
all aspects of things that are exploited in the world. Uh,
Yeah, can we have like 1 month where we're not focusing on like colonial bullshit? Do you think?
I don't think so,
I don't
because
think so either.
it is the structure that allowed the world to grow and expand in the way that it did. And as a direct result, we now have all of these climate disasters. And it's sort of like when talking about there I don't think it can be untied.
Yeah.
It's just
Yeah.
like the
Yeah.
efforts, sustainability efforts are a reflection. It's like it's a response to all of the issues that were caused by
Mm-hmm. The past 100 years,
the last
basically.
100 years of human history. And we've completely demolished so many things and have some very realistic kind of deadlines that are coming up within our lifetime, where things are really going to have to change. And yeah, I mean,
Yep.
of course, there are alternatives, when it comes to fresh water. There are ways that people are working towards desalinating water, or,
Mm-hmm.
you know, um, like sanitizing it so it can be reused, and things like that. But none of them are
Mm-hmm.
perfect systems, and
No.
they all have
I want to
issues.
know more about
Yeah,
desalination.
yeah. I did a little bit of research actually. I was really curious. And there's actually like a pretty large desalination plant about maybe an hour or so
Whoa.
south of here. Yeah. It's in a town called Carlsbad, California, outside of San Diego. And yeah, because I was like, why are we not doing more into that? And I don't know all the details, and that's definitely something that I want to dive further into for sure. But what was interesting, I watched like a couple videos, and I watched like a walkthrough of that particular like treatment plant. So essentially, what we were talking about, gosh, last week, was like, is it just a big, like, are they just distilling the water and catching the fresh water? Yeah, it's kind of that. Yeah, it's just a bunch of
Yeah.
that. But then they're taking what's left over, that super salinated water, and
The
just putting
salt,
it
yeah.
right back into the ocean. And
What does that
that's like,
do?
well, I mean, I think that that's affecting the overall salination of the ocean, right? If you're putting back a way more highly concentrated amount of salt water, then that's gonna really affect. I mean, that means that living
Yeah.
in that area, the like sea life cannot survive in super,
But
super, super salinated water.
yeah, but if the water is already saturated, like I'm just curious, like
Yeah.
if the water's already saturated, does it make a difference in the grand scheme? And like if we're talking again about the water cycle, like how much of a difference does it make? Like I literally like maybe that is a good solution. I have no idea.
I don't know. Yeah, I mean, right. Yeah. Is it because there is definitely like a point where water can't absorb any more salt. So then what?
Yeah,
But I also know that the sea life exists in a relatively delicate balance of
right,
amount of salt that those living creatures
right.
can exist in.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, what
and
kind of balance are we fucking up with that?
For sure. Right. So I was like, "Ooh, okay, this seems like a really cool technology. And like, yes, that's worth investigating and investing in. But then yeah, when they were just like, yeah, well, then we just like dump the rest of it down in the water again. I'm just like, that seems like a weird solution to your waste product. But
Solution. Sorry.
it's yeah, so yeah, I'm definitely interested in knowing more about that and seeing if that's a real solution. And
Yeah.
yeah, a lot of the Middle East has their fresh water all through desalination plants and stuff as well. So
Mm-hmm.
right, but that then yeah, there's a whole host of issues if that continues the way that it is, right? If that's like our main
Yeah.
way of getting fresh water in the future. What happens then
Yeah.
to the salt water if we're
Yeah,
taking all the fresh
exactly.
water from it and extracting all the fresh water, and then we just have
Right. But
salt
then
deserts.
rain isn't salt water. Like, what's going on with the water cycle in general? Because it's a cycle. It's a cycle. So, what, like, are we actually reducing the water altogether on the planet, right? Because if it's a hard thing to like think in my brain, but like if something like 95 or 96% of water on the planet is salt water,
Mhm.
how big of a, and we're desalinating it, but actually, and then putting the salt like back into the ocean, and we know that it rains over the ocean. Like, how much of
Mhm.
it, of things stay in the water cycle? I just have no idea. I don't even really know how to like
Mhm.
Google that question or like find that.
Yeah, that's an interesting question. Yeah, how does water that is like removed from these bodies of water reincorporated into the water cycle, if at all? I do not know.
And right, where's it going? Where's it going?
into the ground,
Sure, but then
into
that would go
waste.
into an aquifer, which would put it back into the water
Not
cycle.
100% though, you know, is
Well, that's what I want to know is like, where's the breakdown in the cycle? Is it because we're using too much that we need more? And if we use less, would it balance itself back out? And then like desalination wouldn't be necessary? Or like, have we disrupted the planet in such a way that we actually just like don't have the same amount of fresh water? I don't know.
we gonna see.
We can
I
find
don't
out.
know.
That's something I want to know.
Yeah. I mean, and this is a huge topic because we haven't even touched on like, you know, that there's still a massive amount of people on the globe right now that have no access to fresh water. So it's like,
No.
yes, it's also like we have a very realistic potential time in the future where there might be none, but for a lot of people,
It's now.
that time is now. Yeah, that time has been that their life.
Mm-hmm. But there's also part of the planet that is just very dry, that never had fresh water, never has.
Mm-hmm.
And there are humans living there. So yeah, that's also, and we run infrastructure to there to bring that water to humans that decide to live in a climate that has no water.
Yeah, it seems like a pretty inefficient system.
Yep. That's something I find interesting. You know what I find really interesting about all of these things? The kind of how everything seems like it's going to like collide and there's going to like the apocalypse is coming, right? Like 2040 is the water date and 2060 is the fossil fuel date, and like somewhere in the middle there is like the soil degradation. So far we can't make our food. Like it all seems like it's sort of like that's food, water, energy. Those are
Mm-hmm.
that's the stuff we need. So like how is it that all three of those main things all have a deadline within a really similar order of
Yeah, that's
magnitude?
interesting, huh? Yeah. Yeah, is that just coincidence? Or is that, I don't know. Yeah, that is, I mean,
Like somewhere between like 2035 and like 2070, shit is gonna get real.
yeah. Yeah.
Uh-huh. There's a really good chance we're gonna still be alive during all of that time.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And if humans make it past that that point in time, it's gonna go down in history as like my grandma lived through all that, our grandparents did all this. That's how history works,
Mm-hmm.
as I
Yeah,
think
it's
about that.
going to be a massive global scale shift.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And we've seen with the pandemic that like we're not so good with like massive global crises. That's not a thing we're super great at.
No, no, it's not. No, we're not. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
We need some forward thinking people in power that
Maybe aren't like 80-year-old white dudes.
that would help. That would help. If literally all of these issues in the world started about 100 fucking years ago, can we stop electing people that like are 100 years old? Like, can we just stop?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
You're the problem. Do, 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 do,
That would be great. Yeah. So gosh, yeah, there's a lot we've got to learn on this particular topic. It is really, really, really interesting though. As you can tell, we have
I'm
a lot of
really
questions.
excited.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have a lot of questions. I'm stoked to like come up on my water knowledge. I'm stoked that like every month or every topic, they all intertwined, but like our whole method and everything we do is based on like building holistic systems and holistic ideas. And that's the way like we think in business and how we think in like our lives and how we want to run things. And to me, it feels like as we take another step into another issue that's like, what do you know? Same people, same problem. Like it seems like the holistic knowledge that we're gathering is like really fascinating.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a trip. That's for sure.
Yep.
It's just a trip.
You're like, you're so cute. You're like, here we go.
Don't know. Yeah, I mean, that is the part about learning about sustainability that I think a lot of people where they kind of stop, right? Is when they get to this feeling of like everything's connected and it's all bad. But that's not necessarily, I mean, that is partially, yeah, there's some very realistic things that we have to address as a humanity.
Mm-hmm.
And learning about them is the first step, identifying
Yep.
the problems, and that's really like our goal here. And there are things that individuals can do, and
Totally.
there
And
are
there's
technologies that can be developed, and gosh, who knows what's going to happen in the next 20 years in terms of technology, in terms of new systems that we come up with to solve some of these issues.
right.
There's there is potential.
Yeah. We
To
just
things that we haven't even fathomed to come.
right. And we haven't and we can't like argue the point anymore that this is a problem, right? Like at some point we share these issues because they need to be shared, like they need to be mainstream information. There needs to be somebody in the world that is actively being like, hi, mainstream public, we're running out of fucking water. We better solve that problem. Let's put it in the news. Let's find a solution. Let's like talk about it on a regular basis, put it in the news. If we're not talking about it, if we're not learning about it, if we're not sharing and like bringing this into mainstream conversation, it's going to be an emergency
Right.
before it's all
Yeah. And the only
trying to
way for it to not be an emergency is just like, well, if you know about it now, be more conscious of your usage. There you go. Like that is the step for all of these, is just being more conscious of your usage. Every time you drink water, every time you eat, every time you turn the light on, you are actively becoming a part of these cycles and these systems that are in place. And you're a member of the earth. You're here
right,
on the planet.
right.
Like, it isn't for you. You are of it. And yeah, we have to make that conscious choice, and we can't continue to think that that everything is indestructible,
Right. It's so easy to think like, oh, I'm just one little human. What impact could I possibly have on this big old planet? The answer is a lot. We can have a lot of impact.
Clearly.
So,
Yeah, 100 years. That's all it took to break it
yep,
all.
break it all. Great job with, yeah, we fucked up that balance fast.
For big, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's our bummer for the day, for this week. Join us while we try to find solutions to yet another sustainability issue.
Yep. Yep. Until next time.
Yeah. See ya.
All right. Thanks for watching, everybody. Bye.
Thanks, guys.